Kyler Murray got paid yesterday. Tom Pelissero, one of the men who broke the news, joins me right now to tell me everything you need to know about what led up to and the actual signing of Kyler Murray's contract extension. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Here we go.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in. Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. Yesterday was a big day for the Arizona Cardinals' future. Kyler Murray inked a 5-year extension, keeping him the Arizona Cardinals quarterback through the 2028 season. But this offseason hasn't been the smoothest. There's been a lot of storylines up and down. And to talk about it is one of the two-headed brethren over at the NFL Network who broke this story, Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. Tom, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, man.
You got it. Big day for the Cardinals for sure.
Now, I do want to ask you a question. I'm bearing the lead because are you and Ian Rappaport brothers when the TVs are off? This is what I want to know. This is why I brought you on.
No, I'm glad. Yeah, no, we're close. I was out in New York last week doing Good Morning Football, and so got up, had dinner with Ian at his beach club that he belongs to up there. So we have a good relationship. It's a funny backstory to the way that things played out this morning. And obviously, you're always keeping tabs on something as big as a Kyler Murray contract. But when I got the sense that this was going to happen, I called Ian. He was on the Peloton, continued to ride, panting into the phone. Did not turn down the instructor, being like, let's go, let's push it. And I'm going, just give me a minute here. Turn the volume down or something. And 3 minutes later, here it is.
What a rascal. What a rascal Ian Rappaport is. Okay, so this offseason for the Arizona Cardinals, it started with the Instagram and then the love letter / declaration letter / Dear John letter that got returned to sender, it seemed like, by the Cardinals. And then the trade for Hollywood Brown. And then, the Pat McAfee show with Steve Keim. And then now here we are, 5-year extension, $160 million in guarantees. Was it ever not going to happen?
Well, the fact that there was little to no communication for months there certainly raised flags that this may end up going sideways. I think you have to go all the way back to the end of last season and the way that the Cardinals as a team played and the Kyler Murray played in that playoff game against the eventual Super Bowl champs. It was not pretty. There was some frustration from a lot of different people all the way up the food chain with the Cardinals. That was expressed to Kyler Murray. Some of that then became public through the media in terms of what more the Cardinals wanted out of him. You have the deleted posts. You have the lengthy statement from Eric Burkhart, Kyler Murray's agent, who's now at Rock Nation Sports. And from that point forward, at that point, Burkhart had put forward a contract extension offer from his side, which is not, usually how this goes. A lot of times the teams are the ones starting it. He had put that out there. They never responded. A month later, after all those other quarterbacks got paid, Burkhart said, you know what? That offer's off the table because now it's going to cost you more than that. And then so, you follow that for the next several months. The Cardinals are always consistent. We do these deals in the summer. It's a June, July thing. We will get to it. He's our guy. We're extending him. And when there were, inquiries or interest in Kyler Murray trade-wise, that was the thing, was that we're not trading him. So, was it always going to happen? I think that there were absolutely edgy moments in this entire thing, especially because Kyler Murray, from my understanding, and I said this on multiple times on TV, was not going to play for $5.5 million this year. It just wasn't going to happen. It was not in his best interest. We ended up not getting to that point because there was time to work it out, and they really hammered it out over the last couple of days here.
Tom Pelissero, NFL media insider at Tom Pelissero, NFL Network's Inside Training Camp, July 25th through August 10th. Did both sides win here? I mean, sometimes it seems like with the Packers situation, they didn't necessarily win, even though they won because they kept Aaron Rodgers. It seemed like with the Deshaun Watson contract potentially blowing the quarterback scale out of this world, it seemed like both sides kind of won here, where he got a lot of money, technically more money per year than Deshaun Watson did. But did both sides win?
It depends how Kyler Murray plays, honestly. I mean, for the Cardinals, they didn't have to fully guarantee the deal, which is significant because there's a lot of teams. They're certainly not the only one that looked at the Deshaun Watson $230 million fully guaranteed contract and thought we are not going to allow the economics of the league to go in that direction, in part because of the funding rule. If they had fully guaranteed Kyler Murray's entire contracts, remember, this is 5 and 230.5 tacked on to 2 years, and I think it's like $37 million left. All right, you paid him $30 million this year. You'd have to then put like a $250 million check in escrow next March. Teams don't want to do that. That's just money that's out of your pocket at that point. So the win for Kyler Murray is the fact that he goes from making $5.5 million this season to making $30 million this year. He gets, I think it's 69 over 2 years and like 106.15 over 3 years. And if you compare that to other recent quarterback contracts, it's a strong deal. The Watson deal notwithstanding, because that was its own thing. You had competition. You had several teams bidding. It was just a different situation. But you compare it to other deals that got done recently. I mean, go back to the Patrick Mahomes deal, which at the time, was the biggest contract in the NFL. It's still the longest. But Patrick Mahomes makes less over 3 years on his deal, and Kyler's making over 2 years in his deal. So he cashes in now while he's still 24. Frankly, if he's still playing well, he's probably back at the table 5 or so years down the line here, at a time that the salary cap will be rising. And the Cardinals get him locked in before some other inevitable deals that get done over the next 12 months here. They eliminate the fight. They eliminate the possibility that he holds out or holds in or refuses to play or whatever it is. And now you move forward, and everybody's going to hope that the trajectory they're on, which is 2019 to 20 to 2021, continues in 2022.
Absolutely. Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, joining me here for a couple more minutes, talking Kyler Murray's contract extension that he and Ian Rappaport, on the Peloton. I'm going to save that just for me. I'm going to save that clip just for me.
It's a great moment.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. One of many. So what Kyler Murray has done for this organization is something that is invaluable, in my opinion. And I implore people to not compare him to Josh Allen or Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes, who kind of broke the mold of it's like, wow, they were ready well before others were in a natural progression to be a star NFL quarterback. Do you see Kyler Murray as a guy, from what you've seen so far in his ups and downs, as a guy that can change the trajectory of an organization that, by all accounts, aside from the last 15 years or so, hasn't won a whole bunch?
Well, I'm not a scout or a coach, and so just in terms of like football talent, it's tough for me to compare. I certainly think that at this point there's a case. It's not a slam dunk case, but there's a case that Kyler Murray is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Joe Burrow, I certainly think at this point you have to put in the top 10. Justin Herbert is, in all likelihood, going to be in everybody's top 10. Some of the other guys like, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are pretty clearly in the top 5 probably, and they're still young quarterbacks in the NFL. It's a great time to be an NFL fan, frankly, because you have this amazing group of quarterbacks. Yes, every year there's misses and there's quarterbacks that don't work out, but look how many good young quarterbacks there are. It's not just one guy. It's not just, Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady. You got a whole bunch of really talented quarterbacks, and Kyler's very talented. The knock with him that, came out and has been much discussed for the past 6 months here has been about leadership traits. And what I always go back to on that is, if you talk to any scout, which I did, I read a big quarterback thing before every draft. You talk to every scout and coach, everyone knew who Kyler Murray was. It's just he's a quieter guy. He's more to himself. He hung up with the baseball players in college, not the football players. He wasn't going to be that type A, traditional leader type. But everybody at Oklahoma respected him because he's so good at football. And it's kind of the same thing in the NFL. Yes, is he going to be the rah-rah center of attention guy? Maybe not. Maybe that's not him. I do know this. Players can sniff out fake. And if you start faking it, then that's worse than not being a leader at all. So Kyler Murray is going to lead in his own way. He's going to do that by what he does on the field. Follow me. I'm really, really entertaining to watch. I'm a really good player. And again, they've gotten better every year. What they got to figure out is how do we can sustain that through the tail end of the season, which is where they've fallen off in the past several years here. But everyone talks about DeAndre Hopkins being out at the end of last season. Kyler Murray also had a significant ankle injury. It's a high ankle sprain. I mean, he missed, I don't remember how many games it was. He missed 2 or 3 games. And then are you ever yourself after a high ankle sprain? Probably not. So let's see Kyler fully healthy Hope that he can stay that way and see what he can do for a full season in 2022.
Inside training camp, July 25th through August 10th, NFL Network, Tom Pelissero. Last one thing, and thank you for joining me. I think it's a huge flex that you don't have to have a 1, 2, 3 at the end of your name on Twitter. I think it's something that gets overlooked a lot. At first name, last name, that's one flex that not a lot of people have. And Tom Pelissero.
Pelissero is an uncommon enough name, but I was also an early adopter circa like 2008 or 2009. So got in early. Happy to it all worked out.
Tom Pelissero, thanks so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
Man, that was great stuff from Tom Pelissero. Coming up next, we'll break down what Tom said, continue the conversation about the Kyler Murray contract extension and what it means for the Arizona Cardinals' future. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. That's next. But first, you know we love our sponsors here at Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On NFL. And one of my absolute favorite sponsors to talk about is none other than Built Bar. I talked about Built Bar yesterday, talked about Built Bar today. Coconut brownie chunk puff. Coconut brownie chunk puff. Okay, so this thing, I say this every time now. It's not in the copy. I made this up. Built Bars taste like everything that your parents wouldn't let you eat when you were younger because they were too sugary. But let me tell you what, these things are actually good for you. All covered in chocolate. Coconut brownie chunk was, I think, the number one seed for all of in our Twitter DM for the best flavor of all the best flavors with Built Bar. And now they have the protein-infused marshmallow puff version. They're outstanding. They're sitting right over there for me. Low calorie, high fiber, low sugar, high protein. It's all you want. Have a protein bar. They're all covered in chocolate. As I mentioned, they're like 6 bites. They taste absolutely so good. You can enjoy them guilt-free because, again, they're actually good for you. They're the perfect treat when you've got a craving, when you need to satisfy your sweet tooth even, and they're good for you. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Go to Built.com. Buy a box of coconut brownie chunk puff. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order at Built.com. All right, second segment on this Friday edition of Locked On Cardinals. Great stuff from Tom Pelissero, one of the best in the business. NFL Network joined me to talk about the breaking of the news of the Kyler Murray contract, what it looked like this offseason when there were little to no murmurs about, and inevitably what it looks like for the Cardinals moving forward. Which NFL stars moved the betting line the most starting July 18th? A couple days ago, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at BetOnline. Available starting a couple days ago through today on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube. Chris Carter and your boy Q go through 10-1. Kyler Murray was ranked 11th. Check that out. Yesterday's show with Tyler Rowland and myself on Locked On NFL, free and available on all platforms. A lot of great insight from Tom Pelissero. Again, one of the best in the business. And a little juicer to get out, get you out for the weekend. Ken Summers from Arizona Republic is going to join me next. A little national perspective on the contract extension, and a little home cooking from one of the smartest minds I've ever come into contact with. He's covered the Arizona Cardinals and Arizona sports for a long time for AZ Central Sports. Ken Summers is going to join me and give his thoughts about the Kyler Murray extension. All in all, I guess the overall idea from Kyler Murray, $160 million in guarantees, that it's about right. It's about the wheelhouse that you expected the money to be. Team-friendly, player-friendly, everybody wins. The cap hits aren't huge. I think they're all under $40 million through 2024, which, yeah, it's big, but in the grand scheme of NFL contracts with quarterbacks, it could be a lot worse. When Tom came on, it was interesting because it seemed like, unless we were talking about early on in the offseason, that people expected, and I'm not putting words in Tom's mouth, but just all in all, people expected this deal to get done. And listen, I did the time counter. Okay, I did. It was more to just, it was to get engagement. It was to have a conversation. It was to acknowledge the fact that it was over 50 days since Steve Keim said on Pat McAfee's show that Kyler Murray was the future. And the amount of money that he got, I think, was very business savvy by Michael Bidwell. It makes Kyler Murray happy. The fact that Rodney Hudson is coming back, solidifies the fact that Kyler Murray is going to have his protection up front to keep the pocket deep, for him to hopefully learn how to step up in the pocket a little bit better. Kyler Murray is learning how to play quarterback at an NFL level in front of our very eyes. And so far, so damn good. Okay? So far, so good. They've got offensive firepower. The defense is lacking a little bit. I want to ask Kent Summers about that next segment. But yesterday was a good day. Yesterday was a fantastic day for the future of the Arizona Cardinals. And we're going to find out in the upcoming years, with with Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, we're going to be here twiddling our thumbs, looking like, woo! Luckily, they didn't have to pay Kyler Murray that much, even though he probably would have been worth it. It's a natural progression. Once again, natural progression is sponsoring this segment. It's not. I'm going to talk about who does next, but we're going to look at this, be like, man, what a steal. And then I'm sure 3 years from now, there's going to be restructuring or a boosting, adding on. This is the fun stuff. Now it's set and forget. Kyler Murray is the quarterback of the future for the Arizona Cardinals, and it's pretty damn sweet. Coming up next, Kent Summers, Arizona Republic, AZ Central is going to join me. We're going to talk about the progress of the Arizona Cardinals since 2018. I'm going to ask him about the defense a little bit and ask him his thoughts about this offseason as a whole and what inevitably turned into Kyler Murray getting a monster extension to stay the Arizona Cardinals quarterback at least through the 2028 season. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals with Kent Summers. Next, first, betonline.net. Fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of each league and every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all the sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They got you covered, man. Go to the website or use your mobile device today to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, final segment, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. Jam show, Tom Pelissero in the first segment, breaking down exactly how he and Ian Rappaport broke the Kyler Murray contract story together while Ian Rappaport was on the Peloton. Pretty insightful stuff there. He kind of talked about the offseason and how things have matriculated to this point. One of the minds that I respect the most surrounding the Arizona Cardinals and just human nature in general joins me right now. Kent Summers has been covering the Arizona Cardinals for a long time here in the Valley. Kent, how the hell are you, man?
I'm doing well, Alex. How are you?
Good. So this offseason's been interesting, clunky at times, quiet at times, eventful at times. Now everything has come to pass like most had expected. Rodney Hudson joining the team for 2022, we found out a couple days ago, and now Kyler Murray will be the signal caller through the 2028 season for the Arizona Cardinals. Immediate reaction when you saw the numbers come down, the $160 million in guarantees over 5 years.
If those numbers hold up, I mean, it looks like the kind of deal everybody kind of expected, in the range everyone expected. A couple of people I talked to who are familiar with negotiations, not these in particular, but quarterbacks looked at it and said, look, they're going to throw out the Deshaun Watson deal. He's not getting a fully guaranteed deal, but it'll be somewhere around $46 million average, 160 million guaranteed for injury. And that's where it came in at. And you kind of got the feeling that something was going to happen before camp. It was just really quiet on both sides. Nobody was really talking about this, which led me to believe that there were serious negotiations going on.
Ken Summers at Ken Summers on Twitter, Arizona Republic, AZ Central, been covering the Cardinals for a long time. Was there ever a moment where you were like, this may not get done? Not to the point of like, I'm gonna have an article waiting, but like, was there some sort of inclination going on in your brain where it's like, this may not be as, copacetic as it seems?
At the very beginning, I remember, being at the Super Bowl when Chris Mortensen and others broke news about, people from the team. They want Kyler to be more mature, more of a leader, improve his body language. And then, Kyler's people supposedly responding that, he felt like he'd been scapegoated for that disastrous loss to the Rams in the playoffs. It was then I thought, maybe this is going to get acrimonious, and then his agent, Eric Burkhardt, starts pushing very publicly for a deal, turns it into a referendum on the Cards. commitment to winning. If they're committed to winning, they'll give my client a contract sooner rather than later. It's sort of at that point I thought, wow, I wonder if this gets done this year, or if the Cardinals legitimately feel that way about Kyler, if they'll just table it for a year and then see where they're at in 2023. But within a month or two after that, you really got the feeling the Cardinals were sincere in believing that Kyler Murray was their future, that they would take care of him. They were just going to do it in their own timeline in the summer, which is when they have extended most other contracts of young players, and that's exactly what happened. So a long answer, not for the last few months. I've got every indication that this was going to get done right around the time of training camp.
Ken Summers, we were sitting not shoulder to shoulder, but at the same extended table in the press box week 1 of 2018 when the Washington Professional Football Team came to State Farm Stadium and the Arizona Cardinals offense was on the field for 5 minutes in the first half. We've come a long way from that. And the terrible 2018 season, 14.1 points per game, Sam Bradford, Josh Rosen, etc. Even though the second half of the last 2 seasons, weren't exactly what you looked for, Kyler Murray through the first 3 years, what grade would you give him? Not only for elevating this offense, for peaks and valleys, everything. I mean, as a human being, as growing as a young quarterback, what grade would you give him to date as the Arizona Cardinals quarterback?
It's a good question. I haven't really thought about it in terms of grade. I'm thinking a B plus.
Okay.
I mean, the second half fades that have gone on the last 3 years, really losing 5 of the last 6 last season. I think 7 of 9 the year before that, 5 of 7 the year before that. I mean, that's also on him. I mean, he was banged up in a lot of those seasons and either out or playing hurt. And I do think that the questions about his body language, his leadership skills, I think those are all legitimate. I mean, I think the team had legitimate questions about that. And I believe the team wants to see improvement from him in those areas. I also think the team looks at it and says he turns 25 August 8th, I think, and there's a lot of time for him to make those improvements. So I'll say a B plus. I mean, certainly he helped make the team relevant, obviously, after that 2018 season. I mean, I'm not saying he was the savior because that was such a colossally bad roster that Steve Keim assembled that year. They needed to make wholesale changes in a lot of places, and they did. And it's not like Kyler Murray has flipped a switch for the Cardinals and they instantly became legitimate. I mean, it's been a slow, gradual process, incremental improvement over the 3 years. And that's why there's some pressure on him, and obviously too, Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim to do more this year than just get to the playoffs.
Yeah. Ken Summers, AZ Central, Arizona Republic. I've talked a lot this offseason about the defense, about, 2 third-round picks, Majai Sanders and Cam Thomas. Understood there were some needs there when Chandler Jones, left for Vegas. I see, and I love Kent because, like, if I say something stupid on Twitter, you're just going to once in a while be like, nope, that's not right. And I love that. That's a relationship that I want to have with people, with my peers and friends. I have this thought, and this is not a doomsday scenario. This is if things don't go to plan like you hope they will with this high-powered offense that is going to hover around, you'd think, 27, 28, 29 points per game, all things equal, that if things don't go to plan on the defensive side of the ball, is there a chance that Vance Joseph could be looked at as some sort of scapegoat, even though the defense has taken a step back? I think, depending on the emergence of Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins, they are the X factor, I think, for the defense this year. Like, is the defense going to be looked at as the reason why the Cardinals didn't win more games if the Cardinals put up 20 or 29 points a game and win 9 or 8?
It could be. And if Vance Joseph is made the scapegoat, to me, that's immensely unfair.
Agreed.
Because his defense has really outperformed Cliff Kingsbury's offense over the last 2 seasons for sure. And then you take away from that defense An elite pass rusher in Chandler Jones. And granted, maybe he didn't put up the numbers last year that they expected, but it was still somebody that the opposing team had to worry about. And now, who have they got? I never saw the plan there. It's Marcus Golden and some young guys, and you hope JJ Watt can stay healthy. But yeah, the 2 first-round picks at inside linebacker you mentioned have yet to prove they're worthy of being first-round picks. They're awful thin at cornerback. I don't know that you can fault a coach if a defense struggles when you didn't make a lot of moves, if any, to upgrade it in the offseason.
Does that surprise? What was your immediate reaction to when you first started getting an inkling, or first started hearing rumblings, if you did, that they were going to trade for Hollywood Brown instead of drafting at 23 overall?
I didn't hear any rumblings at all. I mean, it was the day they did it. I think the Suns were in the playoffs at the time, and I was busy doing that, and I thought, oh, okay, Hollywood Brown, I guess. That made sense later when we found out about the suspension of DeAndre Hopkins. But yeah, to me, I actually thought, and I don't mean this to bash Steve Keim all the time, but I also thought that's a better use of a first round pick than what he's done lately with the first round pick.
Yeah. Agreed. It's unfortunate that his agent is now notorious for getting his players contract extensions before their rookie scale deal is up. I mean, Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown. Deebo hasn't gotten his yet, but you're hoping that Hollywood Brown plays well this year and is cool with playing on his 5th-year option before they have to pay him after this year. I mean, money's going to start getting tight. So I don't know. It's been a fun offseason. Let's just say
you look at the prospect of paying both him and DeAndre Hopkins at the same time. Can they afford to do that? You could really, if you're a Cardinal fan, there's reason to worry down the road. You've got a center, Rodney Hudson, who's contemplated retirement. We think that's the reason he stayed away in the offseason. You have a left guard in Pugh who said he contemplated retirement. You've got DJ Humphries in the last year of his contract. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to have to be taken care of after this season. But like my mom always warned me, don't go borrowing trouble. Her way of saying, try to stay in the moment.
We cover the Cardinals. It comes with the damn territory. Ken Summers Ken Summers on Twitter. Arizona Republic, one of the best to do it. Thanks so much for joining me, man, on a Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I'll talk to you Monday.